so many people have these mercury fillings, so many people have some sort of mercury poisoning, but yet we just kind of blow it off like it's this insignificant thing. Mm-hmm. And when you do dive into the data, I've had a few other people on here talking about mercury, you know, and it just makes me think like, you know, back in the day, they used to call people Mad Hatters, and it was because they'd wear these top hats that gave them mercury poisoning. I don't remember exactly how that happened, but you know, people legitimately have both physiological and emotional issues that stems from this kind of mercury.
Yeah. So the term Mad Hatter came from actually the hat makers, and they would use mercury in the lining in the top of the hat.
Right.
So it drive them crazy. But actually, I mean, if you look into the suicide rates within dentists, specifically traditional dentists, you'll see that the rate is quite high. And I think bipolar disease is linked to mercury. All sorts of different deficiencies are linked to mercury. One of the things that mercury actually does is messes with your lithium metabolism, and you look at most people that are mercury poisoned or toxic, they have very, very, very low lithium. Oh, the funny thing is when you are bipolar, what do they give you? Very, very high dose of lithium. So I mean, you know, and I have a history of bipolar in my family, actually, so it was a personal interest to me to dig deeper when I started noticing these patterns and things that overlap. But I mean, it's funny because to relate it just to nootropics for a moment, which just keeps on popping into my mind, is that, you know, the amount of people that message me on Instagram and say, Tim, I've got a gut problem, what pill should I take? Or, you know, I've got brain fog, what nootropics should I take? Or, you know, or I'm a high performer, what drugs should I take to help me focus better? And the funny thing is the amount of times when someone's actually got a metal filling in their mouth and they have brain fog is pretty significant, actually. And it's like, well, I just want to supplement. Well, get the metal out of your mouth first, because if there's something you do for your brain fog and cognitive abilities, it's get mercury out, because depending on your genetics, you may or may not be processing it very well, which will cause all sorts of neurological issues, and brain fog being one of the key things for it, in my opinion. So, you know, I think I was lucky enough or in the position to be running companies and have people that work for me. And, you know, when they'd ask me something taxing and my brain wasn't working right, I would just say, what do you think the best solution is? And they would answer for me. But that kind of...
that's what people mean when they say that? Okay.
I was like, or, you know, my brain had wandered and I hadn't listened for 5 minutes and they asked me a question. I said, what do you think, Tim? I was like, what do you think? So, you know, that ran its course and I couldn't do that for much longer. So I tried nootropics and, you know, all these different things. And linking mercury poisoning to my health issues was very, very lucky, just because I had thrush around the filling in my mouth. And I Googled thrush and fillings and it came up with Candida and mercury poisoning and the link between those things, which really got me down that rabbit hole. So I was very, very lucky to figure that out early on. I don't think a lot of people actually link those things together.
That's a perfect analogy too for, like you mentioned, the gut thing, and then the mercury teeth it's so timely for this conversation because people do want to know, you know, I'm in these groups, I run these nootropics groups, you know, I talk to people about nootropics all the time. And it's always the same question. Like you said, what nootropic do I take for this? You know, what nootropic do I take for my ADHD? What should I take for bipolar? What should I take for depression? And the fact is like, well, there's a whole suite of things you can take, but have you cut off where the problem is coming from? You know, like if you break your arm and put it in a cast, are you going to then take a hammer and start breaking your arm every single day again and wonder, well, should I get more cast on that arm? You're probably going to have to figure out what keeps breaking your arm to stop that and then, you know, go with the healing thing.